Hello, my name is Heather Gaddis, and welcome to my reflection video, which forms an important part of the final leg in my MET journey at Boise State. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. After completing a master's in applied linguistics and teaching English as a second language in the United States for a couple of years, I decided to go abroad. I landed in Popopan de Leon, at a public university where students are required to achieve an intermediate level of English. It was here that I first started integrating technology into my teaching. Ironically, I sought out technology because of the lack of traditional resources available to me. I also started to look for more information about using technology in teaching, which led me to completing a certificate in the principles and practices of online teaching from TESOL, the largest professional organization for English language teachers. After a year there, I decided to move to Turkey and taught at an English preparatory program. I continued to get my feet wet with technology as the school was looking for ways to meet accreditation standards requiring it to have a course management system. Thus, I became the Moodle administrator. I found the experience interesting but also frustrating at times because I knew there were many things that I did not know. For that reason, I sought out a degree program in educational technology, which I found at Boise State. Since starting the program, I have moved back to Mexico, to Querétaro, which is a medium-sized city in the center of the country. In addition to my move, my job description has also changed. I am now the academic coordinator of English at a K-12 girls' school, which means I am in charge of book selection, curriculum, and the professional development of the teachers, among many other things. I have found that my MET courses have come at just the right time to help me better adjust to my position. Now, I would like to share with you 3 ways in which the MET program has had the most impact on my teaching and leadership. The first is online course design, the next is an instructional design, and the third is HTML and CSS. Before starting my MET degree, I had not given much thought to what good teaching online looked like. This experience gave me the chance to plan a course from beginning to end, including doing a needs analysis and planning for the extra work the course will require of me, the instructor, as well as the support and administrative staff. It also gave me more practice with writing learning objectives, which I will get to in the next section. The part of the project that had the most impact on me was when it came to putting the physical look of the course together. Creating a consistent, easy-to-follow course from module to module really drove the point home that making the experience of navigating the course easy for the student will have a positive effect on their success in the class. This same thinking has transferred over into the face-to-face realm, in which I am much more careful in the way that I craft messages for my staff, because I'm aware that if the message does not follow a consistent format, or is not broken up in a way that they can digest it, then it is likely that my message will not get across. While I have not gotten the chance to fully implement the course I created, I have used parts of it in my EAP course that I am currently teaching. In addition, this experience made me reflect on the courses I had taken up until that point in my MET program. I realized that how I felt about those different academic experiences had a lot to do with how the course was designed and the types of activities that were included. In fact, all along, my MET instructors have been showing us the best practices in teaching online, while of course teaching us about those best practices. In later assignments, for example, in my Principles for Effective Online Teaching for EdTech 523, I incorporated some of the practices I had seen work in my MET classes, such as having multiple deadlines for discussion forums so that students come back to respond to their classmates. I have put that practice into place in my current online course design. Another best practice that I've seen and since put into place is that of having a class dictionary. While I'm using it as a student in my statistics course, it is also an activity that works very well in an English language class. In my first few years of teaching, I went along creating exams based on the content that I had taught, but never thought about how I was presenting the content or if there was alignment between what I was asking from my students in class and on assessments. I also did not realize the importance of letting students know how they were going to be evaluated before they began an assignment. I now see the relationship between planning, instruction, and evaluation a bit like the water cycle. All parts feed into one another. For my instructional design project, I chose creating a quiz in Moodle as my content. Then I did a needs analysis where I solicited information from the potential participants to more accurately gauge their comfort level with technology. Next, I did a learning context and learner analysis where I looked more closely at the environment in which the instruction would take place and the specific characteristics of the learners, such as their age and prior learning. Next, I broke the learning task down into steps. This was an extremely useful exercise because it forced me to approach the task taking into consideration that my breakdown of the learning task would have to make sense to someone who had never heard of creating a quiz in Moodle, or even had never heard of Moodle. Teachers often make assumptions on what our students are bringing to the table and then get frustrated with them when they don't respond as we want. The combination of the needs analysis, learner analysis, and the breakdown of the instruction showed me a way to avoid that. The next part involved writing learning objectives. Up until that point in my teaching career, I had heard of standards and objectives, but I'd never seriously applied them to my teaching, which is probably due to the fact that teaching ESL to adults is not a highly regulated field in terms of standards creation. EdTech 503, and this project in particular, really helped me to see the importance of learning objectives. In fact, I have used the knowledge gained in this project and applied it to assessment in my own department, and also to helping teachers create instruction that is aligned with what they expect from their students. In addition to creating learning objectives, I also matched them to Bloom's taxonomy, which helped me to see the level of thinking skills that I was asking. I have also used this with my teachers when examining what types of activities need to be done with students before we ask them to engage in critical thinking. When we look at the different levels of thinking that we are asking our students to engage in, we can see areas where we might be jumping ahead before laying the groundwork for analysis and evaluation. In addition, closing the loop between planning, instruction, and assessment helped me to understand that students need to be part of the assessment process, and that they need to be aware of how they're going to be assessed before starting an assignment. This gives them security and helps them to become more autonomous. Last year, I had one student tell me I had a rubric for everything. In her end-of-the-year reflection, she wrote that she realized that having a rubric or a checklist is a way of competing with yourself because it shows you where you should be focusing. EdTech 502 was probably the class I was most excited about taking in the EdTech program. Learning more about making websites and using them in education is one of the reasons I initially sought out a degree in educational technology. Before starting the class, I had a vague notion of what HTML was and no idea at all about CSS. The first lesson I learned in EdTech 502 was how great it felt to get the little check mark when I ran my WM3C checks on my scripts. Of course, I also learned about navigation panels and using Fireworks to create a custom banner, which you can see here. One of the true benefits of the course was learning about web-based activities like WebQuest that I had never used before. WebQuest are a great way to guide students to discover the content. In the case of the WebQuest you see here, teacher observation is a topic that I've been focusing on for quite a while, especially since my current job puts me in a position to help teachers with their own professional development. Doing this WebQuest on a topic that was of interest to me helped me to gather more materials that would be of use to me in the future. Another web-based activity that I created was my virtual field trip through Turkey. While I had certainly heard of field trips, I had never thought about using the internet to do a virtual field trip. I have since used Google applications to help my teachers take their students on virtual field trips to art museums. For this particular web page, I learned how to create hyperlink areas of a web page, which you can see here in the header. The name of each city is a hyperlink that will take learners to more information about that place. Here you can see the same type of hyperlinking, but this time with the map of Turkey. Linking the physical locations of the cities to hyperlinks that lead to information about them is a great visual tool. Another element that I incorporated into this page was customized bullets, which helped to tie the whole theme together. Like I said, I had never heard of CSS before EdTech 502. In our final assignment of the course, we used a CSS template which helped to produce a more professional looking web page. While I can say that I am really proud of all the pages that I created during the course, because I know the hard work and sometimes hours of frustration spent trying to figure out why your page was not connecting to the server that were involved in the whole process, this was the first page that I felt that I could proudly show someone else because it most closely resembled a professional web page. While I would certainly not say I'm a web design guru, this class did give me a basic understanding of how web pages are put together as well as a base for learning other programming languages. As I said in my introduction, the MET program came at just the right time for me, as it coincided with when I started a new job that required more of a background in the field of education and in leadership. With the knowledge that I gained in online course design, I was able to further integrate technology into my own teaching, as well as assist the teachers that I work with to integrate technology into their own teaching. This was the basis for my instructional design project, which focused on creating quizzes in the course management system Moodle. Those two areas encompass the educational part of educational technology. While HTML and CSS have not directly impacted my new job, they have helped me to fulfill my own personal goal of becoming more knowledgeable about how web pages are constructed. For me, that completed the technology part of educational technology. With both components of educational technology brought together during my MET journey, I am now excited to continue to grow as a professional in the field.